with a humanistic approach. And my oh my, this is big news. It's hitting the whole of the internet and the social media, and that is the fact that Jair Bolsonaro has just won the Brazilian election, and this is a very big um, announcement in the world, because Jair Bolsonaro happens to be a right wing, far right, ultra right winger. And what it means to be far right, it means to be very conservative and very anti internationalism, and focus more on the local affairs of people. Now, why are we doing this video? We are on an LGBTQ channel. Why is it important? Because the LGBTQ movement is a global movement. And being a global movement, and being a global movement, everything that happens in the globe affects the LGBTQ movement in one way or another. Now, Jair Bolsonaro, the reason why it's not a big news story as such is because he's just another Donald Trump. So in fact, I'm liking the names they're giving. They are calling him the Brazilian Trump, and the best I got was a tropical Trump. That one is very nice nickname for him. That is a tropical Trump. And tropical Trump meaning he's a Trump that's found in the tropics, Brazil being in the tropics. So, what does that mean for the LGBTQ movement? What does that mean for the whole world? That's the title of the video, and we want to discuss this in light of everything that is happening in the world. I remember in the last video I did, I discussed the what has happened in my life scientifically and knowledge-wise. I am now reading the world with scientific interpretations. And what I mean by that is, you know, we have democracies, we have all of these things, but we forget that we need to know how many people in the world are right wing, how many people in the world are left wing. So actually, what I'm trying to say, I am now a very demographic academic, a person who reads academics with demographics in play. Like I said, it means a lot if more than half of the world is right wing. Yes, it does. It means if more than half of the world is conservative, it will mean that conservative ideology will rule and will make up most of the laws that countries produce. If we have a world that is liberal countries, and 50%, more than 50% of the world is liberal, then we are going to have a liberal world, more liberal world, because there'll be more liberal laws, more liberal and everything. Now, if we have a centrist world, centrist meaning you mix both liberal ideology and right-wing ideology, or left-wing and right-wing, then we'll have a centrist world if more than 50% are centrist. But it's not that common. Centrism is very rare. Now, now we're going to discuss a lot. So I think we should put this under River of Thoughts and Love of Fikir. Why is it that the world tends to be, and then now another thing will, and when you study demographics, sorry, I'm thinking in a French way. When you study demographics, you also study it in tandem with time. So you should ask yourself, is humanity more right wing than left wing? naturally? What are we naturally? Politically. Aquinas said we are political animals, and therefore naturally humans are politically now are political. So if we are political, which wing do we tend to fall in naturally as human beings? I think we tend to be conservative naturally. What I mean by that is conservative means you preserve what the status quo. That is it. You preserve the status quo. What you've seen, you want to keep it. You've enjoyed it, especially if it's something you enjoy. Humans only change what they don't like. They change what they don't like. You know, like if you eat something and it tastes bad for you, you look for something else because there's a goal in your eating. You want to eat something that makes you happy. And once you've got it, you stay with it. You don't change. So that's another meaning of conservatism. But I don't want us to define conservatism like that, just meaning preserving the status quo, because that's not what it is. And another thing I'm also doing in my scientific life, because we all have to have a scientific life, just we have a sexual life. You know, you have a sexual life, you have a scientific life, you have a political life, you have an economic life. We all have these lives. So I have all those lives, and scientifically, I'm seeing a revolution because now I'm studying very many things and it's making me understand a lot. So I am now very detailed in my science, and my detailed. Why am I being detailed? Because when it is detailed, you will make detailed conclusions, and therefore you can even make detailed predictions and detailed outcomes. That's why we are in the AI age. AI is so very strong because it believes in making it can produce millions of outcomes, and it does that in a very short time, depending on the power of the computer. So anyway, back to what I was saying. I think we are more humans tend to be conservative. So what's conservative? They like what they like, they preserve. That's a conservative. But at the same time, we are also liberal. And liberal in the sense that we no, actually we are conservative. And then secondly, we love freedom. So that's why I was thinking to myself, I think we're also liberal. Liberal in the sense that liberal, you don't want someone to control you. You want to be independent. You want to do what you want. So that's a human being. Now, governments, it's weird that the left wing is called liberal, but it's not necessarily liberal, especially in economics, because it is left wing economics is communist, is socialist, and in a socialist system, the government is in control. They they do they control the money. In a capitalist society, which has lies in the right wing, the conservatives, most of them, um, they they don't give they it is a laissez-faire system whereby it's free for all. You know, do what you want. If you have money, the more money you have, you can put up many businesses, you can do what you want. So those are right wingers, and they tend to espouse capitalism. So in a capitalist system, businessmen tend to rule the country, and people who have money, basically people who have money, are the ones ruling the country. But in a left-wing system, which is socialist and communist, it is the government that rules the country. So everything is in the government's hands. And for you to be rich in a left-wing country, you have to be close to the government. Now, uh, and I'll talk about this. This is quite a long video. Now let's go back to Jair Bolsonaro. So, with all I have said, in the ancient world, were people conservative or they were liberal? Or were people on the right wing or they were on the left wing? I think people were, they were scattered in both wings. And it's not right to put every human in wherever they were. Some humans like being controlled, you know. Others don't like being controlled. Yes, it's a fact. There are humans who like being led. And if you don't lead them, they don't value you. And then there are humans who want to lead, and they do their things on their own. They have their own ideas. They don't want you to mess with them. So basically, 50% of the world is naturally left wing and 50% is naturally right wing. And that's what has happened even in Brazil. 55% voted for Bolsonaro and 44% voted for Haddad, the left winger. So you see, and most elections in the world are 50% right wing, 50% left wing. So basically, the world hasn't changed. It's just that what is worrying is if we have a right wing world. And it seems the world is turning red. You know, it is no longer a turn, it's the blue part of the world is becoming less and less. So how we're going to divide this video, we have already given you the introduction. Now let's discuss it question wise. Why is the world becoming more right wing, especially the Western world? Remember, Brazil is a BRICS country. BRICS, meaning it is a block. It's a very rich, important block. So you have to understand, why is this election very important? Brazil was naturally left wing in the sense that they were socialists. Actually, the whole of South America was a very socialist country, socialist continent. And it's even shocking. I know even Maduro right now is wondering what happened to Brazil, because Venezuela is the home of socialism. But you see what has happened to Venezuela. It makes socialism look very bad, and the reason being, the superpowers of the world are not so socialist. America is a superpower and it's not a socialist country. So that means even if Venezuela is trading with America, the American politic will have a very strong effect on Venezuelan trade. That's why, you know, Venezuela is suffering because it is a socialist country. It's like the black sheep in the family, or the white goats amongst black goats, to put them differently. So Venezuela is suffering because it's socialist, and most of the countries that are powerful and are not friends with it are capitalist. So that's why socialism is collapsing in Venezuela, is because they are facing their enemies, don't like their system for a reason. Socialism is not bad, it actually can succeed. This is what has happened in Scandinavia. They are all socialist, democratic socialist countries, and they are the best countries in the world. They always pass in everything, every performance indices, they do very well. And particularly, they are democratic socialists. They are not even democratic capitalists, because capitalism, come to think of it, is not necessarily democratic, because it's about who has the money. The more money you have, the more you get what you want in capitalism, and that's not democratic. Democracy is what the people decide. People can decide to vote for a poor man. You see, that's a democracy. That's what happened in America. Obama had no money like what Trump has. Obama was not even on the Forbes, has not been on, and is not on Forbes list of billionaires. But he won. Why? America is a democracy. A very weird one, because even though it's capitalist, politics, they have done well to separate politics from economics. So there's really, it's not really a capitalism does not really have an effect on the political leanings of people. Though another thing one could say, that could be an error to say that, because Obama could be a special case, the exception to the general rule. So the general rule would be America is a capitalist nation, and therefore democracy is not that strong, in the sense that if you have money, you tend to win. If you have money, like what happened to Trump. But Trump won because he used the populism that Obama had. Obama was popular because of how he speaks. Trump was used his celebrity power and the right wing anger to get into power. So he got into power. But if you see, it's not really even about ideology as such. It's just populism. And populism is democracy, because populism means people. And democracy also means people. Demo means people. And popu means people. So that's where we get the word people, popu. So the popu and demo are the same. So America, Trump was there, and then another problem with Trump's presidency was he won through the electoral college, not through the popular vote. Popu again. The popular vote, Hillary Clinton won. So basically, America went Democrat, has been Democrat, and they only are Democrat during presidential election. So this time, America is trying its best, especially the Democratic wing, trying to encourage their voters who their natural disposition of voting is that they only vote at presidential elections. Midterm, they don't pay attention to it, but they've seen the price they paid for not paying attention to the midterm elections. The right wing, the Republicans managed to get power. They pulled it off the rug of Obama when the Democrats, the voters, did not pay attention to midterm elections, and Obama then had to rule America in his second term through executive order, because he had no every time you put something in Congress, because it was 50%, 50%, or even sometimes 60, because the Republicans got the House. So he was trapped. So he could only rule America through executive orders and a few bipartisanship, which was a good option to do when you have your political enemy has come and has taken over, and you're in power, you're still in presidential power. You do bipartisanship, you throw bipartisanship in, so that now you work together, rather than try and destroy somebody who has more political power than you, when you still have political power. Because if he didn't do the bipartisanship deal, America would have hit a stalemate. Actually, the time Obama was president, the second term, some commentators used to say, nothing is happening. He's just a lame duck president, because he tries this, Republicans will say no, and they have the numbers, executive, all of that. So what I'm trying to say is that if you have when you have political power, you can use it to change and attack a country's political system. And that's what has happened to Venezuela. And now Brazil, that was a left-wing country, and a very important left-wing country, has now become right-wing, and through Bolsonaro. But is that the end of the left wing? No, it's not the end. And that's what people should understand about democracy. When there are elections, it's not the end of a party. You see, even in America, some people used to say, now this is the end of the Democrats, they're gone. No, it's not the end. It's just that you have to now work harder to get power back. And people are complaining. Hillary Clinton was saying that we even have to not to be civil. Yes, I know what she's saying, because she understands law. She knows what it means when the right wing is in power, especially a right wing government that is not willing to listen to the other wing. So that is why people do what they do. They have to, um, you have to put a lot of effort. Politics is very hard. It's a very hard. It's not easy. It's not easy, and so you just have to keep on being involved in politicking. It's not. It's a lot of work, because it's about policies. It's about plans. Politics is about plans. One person has this plan. The other one has this plan. You see, that's politics. One person, like the left wing, what is the left wing plan for the world? The left wing plan for the world is that people get welfare, they're taken care of, and people, those who have money, they are taxed, and the tax is used to provide services and run the country. Because in a socialist or left wing government, the government is the one that plans for the country. Now, right wing governments are different, and conservatives, they don't give, the government can make plans, but it doesn't want to make plans for everything and everyone. That's why they prefer, they don't like welfare, because they feel like, oh, it's too much of a burden. I mean, why am I taking care of so many people? Can't they just go and get a job? That's what right wingers think like. They'd rather give people jobs than welfare. And then they share plans. Planning is shared. So in a capitalist or in a conservative right wing government, it's not only the government planning. They deal with investors. They deal with capitalists from other countries and from other places, or local, mostly local capitalists. And so this rich man comes and says, I have $10 billion, so I want to put this factory here. So they go to a government office, and the government office says, oh, you have this money. We can see, yes, you're able to do it. Yeah, put up a factory. Puts up a factory, hires people, and so when the people are hired, the government, the right wing government, taxes. But the problem of right wing, it's so weird. Actually, if we'll do a very proper video to show you a pure right wing government and a pure left wing government. Right wing governments don't like taxes. Look at Trump. He's the epitome of right wing politics. Doesn't want taxes at all. So what does that mean? He really wants people to have money. and but the thing you need to understand, taxes are what runs a government. So what do you can predict what is going to happen in America if Trump goes on the way he's going on. He will make the government in America will become very small. Very small government, because the government, I mean, there is no tax. Tax is how governments make money. And as I've told you, in a left-wing government, the argument for tax is, we can only provide services for you through taxation. That's how a left-wing government is run. And then left-wing governments are more concerned about the poor, and the disabled and the minorities, because how does a disabled person live in a right-wing, ultra right-wing government or a right-wing government? They suffer because you're not working, so that means you won't eat. See, you won't eat because you're not working, and you're not working because you're disabled. So a good government is supposed to have welfare for disabled people, for people who are weak, and can't work, and then those who can work create jobs. That's why I prefer the centrist system. I've even become centrist these days. When I do my evaluation of myself, I look at left-wing ideas and right-wing ideas. There are some ideas from the left I like, and there are some ideas I like from the right. So I found out I've become centrist. There's a video I've done on my theology channel, queering science, theology, philosophy, and spirituality, QSTPS. And I noticed I'm 60% or 70% left and 30% right. And guess what? It can change. Yes, there's a possibility it can change, because humans, why do we change things? We change things when they don't work. Yes. But not all humans change. Some humans, especially if you found something that is favoring you, you will stay with it. You'll stay with it. So, and that's politics that's now happening. And now let's that we were discussing about the wings. Now let's discuss about Brazil itself, of Bolsonaro. Now, who is Bolsonaro as a person? Bolsonaro is conservative, homophobic, sexist, and very free market minded. He's a Trump. Basically, he's just Donald Trump. Now, why is that very important to understand who Bolsonaro is? If you know who Bolsonaro is, you will know what he's going to do. You will know what he's going to plan. You will know how he thinks. This is why we have profiles. We have profiles. The people who I know some people will feel like don't do racial profiling and all of this. Let's face it, people profile each other. Even Facebook has your Facebook profile. So it's a fact. Humans profile. We are how that's how we are wired. We study. We read people. Why do we study people? We study so that we can know human behavior. Yes. Do you know 80% of the academics will know what Bolsonaro is going to do, and it will happen. Yes, it will happen. 80%, because you give them, this is what Bolsonaro is. He likes this, he likes this, he hates this, he hates this. The guy will tell you the academic has never seen Bolsonaro. Have I even met him? I haven't met him. But I can even predict to you what he's going to do. And I'm not a prophet. It's just data. Things have changed. We are now so knowledgeable. All you need to know is, what does this person like? What does this person... I even missed... Before I did this video, and I was reading through the articles, some of the articles about Bolsonaro, I was laughing at myself that that before I was getting to read about Bolsonaro, what I thought of him is he must have women who back him. There are some women who back him, and there are some women who don't back him. And next thing you know, that's what he said. He even abused a woman, insulted a woman, just like Trump. No different. Imagine Trump recently just called the lady a horse face, and Bolsonaro said another woman. He said that another woman is so ugly she can't even be raped because of her ugliness. So you see, those are men like that, and there are people like that. They talk. Look at Duerte of the Philippines. Doesn't give a damn. He even called Obama a monkey. Luckily, he said sorry. Yeah. And then you have Putin. Also, Putin has a loose mouth, but he's very quiet. Doesn't open it all the time. So all of these people have done that. Now, so back to Bolsonaro. So Bolsonaro is a very right-wing person. And thank you to that viewer who is watching now, El Curso. Yes, that's what has happened. Bolsonaro has just won the Brazilian election, and we are talking about it. So he's a right-wing man. And people need to understand, why do people go to the right? They go to the right when the left has not worked well. So that's another thing about human beings. Human beings tend to change. You see these wings, like a building. Have you been into a building and you have the east wing and the west wing, or the right wing and the left wing of a building? So if this side of the building, if there's an earthquake happening on the left wing, you will leave the left wing part of the building and go to the right wing. If it the right wing is building is the right wing part of the building is shaking, you will go to the left wing part of the building because this side is shaking. But there are some people who they would rather stay in the left wing part of the building because they have something there. Like if you have money in the safe in the left wing part of the building and there's an earthquake, and for you your concern is money. Believe me, you even want to die yeah, that side of the building rather than go, because for you your concern is the money, it's not the building, it's not your life. So people stay in certain places because of what they mean, the values. What that thing is so valuable to me, it's more valuable to me than my life. So but generally humans move, they change ideas, and because of the because maybe the government that is there, like in Brazil, Rousseff and Lula, you know, Lula was great. Even Rousseff was nice. I had no problem with them. In fact, what I liked about Rousseff, she was not homophobic. She allowed, it is under her reign that the LGBT community got space. Very happy with Rousseff. And Carlos Lula, I mean, Lula was now the man who made Brazil Brazil. You know, Brazil rose up. And I think I saw recently Rousseff even hired Lula again, which was wise because she knew that she knew there's something great in that man, even though he committed corruption. But because the corruption case was so bad in Brazil, so bad that the people even didn't want to see Lula again. So when Rousseff brought Lula to be friends with Lula, they just said, "What? These guys, they're not understanding. We are fed up. Money is lost. Life is getting hard, and you know what? We don't need you like left wingers." And they left, the left wing, and now they are with Bolsonaro. And it's not that they want to be like the article I was reading about women voters. It's not that women love Bolsonaro that much. He's sexist. But it's that they just want a change. And what is the change they are crying for? Most humans are crying for economic change. Actually, if you're a politician, to win people, please win them economically. If you do that, if you sort the economics of a human being, they will worship you. If you sort the economics of a human being, they will worship you. Don't sort their politics. You will suffer if you try and sort someone's politics, like LGBTQ, trying to make somebody support, you tell them now let's support gay rights or be homophobic. Oh my friend, if you bring those, because why, politics is very personal. People have their ideas of politics and culture and lifestyle. But guess what? If you focus on economics, you see, people will love you even if they don't agree with you. They will love you even if you don't agree with them. So that is Bolsonaro. We have now seen Bolsonaro, his personality in a short way. He's a right-wing man, homophobic. Now, when he's homophobic, of course, he said he would rather not have, he would rather let his son die in an accident than hear that he's a homosexual. You see, that's very homophobic. I mean, What's so bad having a homosexual son? Bolsonaro is talking like he's just ignorant, doesn't know that artificial intelligence that we're using today was created by a homosexual. That's what I love the world. It has a very weird karma. People who are homophobic are using homosexual inventions to spread their homophobia. It's unbelievable irony. And and even till today, I mean, look at Apple. It's led by a gay man. $1 trillion company. There is no trillionaire company in the world. No person is a trillionaire. The first person to be a trillionaire in the world is Apple, and it's led by a gay man. So what does that mean? Is Tim Cook stupid? He's brilliant. He knows what he's doing. And we're very proud to say that because we're in one family, one community. Yes. And so when you hear people like Bolsonaro saying things like that I would rather have my son dying in an accident than being a homosexual, you cry. You just cry. You just cry and say it's sad. The guy doesn't. He's ignorant. Actually, these days even I've stopped crying. I just look at you and I shake. SMH, SMH. When you say such things, because you're really ignorant about society, history, science. You're just an ignorant man. You just need books. And he was in the military. So for crying out loud, what is this? I mean, military people know many things, and they shouldn't. You shouldn't talk like that in a country that has already succeeded in helping the LGBT community, because the LGBT community is already out in Brazil. Is he going to put them back in the closet? It's going to create chaos. If you try and do that, you are going to cause chaos. And the so-called economic plan he wants is not going to work. Yes, it won't. Because you have returned people to the closet. Do you know what that means? That means diseases are going to ravage people because they will not go and access them. People will go to the courts to sue you as a government for rolling back gay marriage, and you are sued, so that means more money is lost from government. There's a Kenyan country, in the country called Kenya. What happened is there's a person who is so homophobic. I think I've even done a video about him. He works for the Kenya Film Corporation or Board, and they judge which films to be there. So he has made the government go to court because of LGBTQ films and all of these things. And I was calculating in my head and saying, this guy is going to cause, the government is going to pay very many people. Because when you have lawsuits that are over about $500,000 and to pay, and that's coming out from the government, my goodness, you better be prepared to pay the people. So I looked at that and I said, no, that's not right. It's not good to spew homophobia, especially in a government position, because you will be taken to court. Right now, people understand LGBTQ rights are constitutional. They are in the constitution. All countries value LGBT persons. Yes, because it's an LGBTQ person is a human. Now, it's just that some constitutions are closeted. They do not define who a person is not. The moment they define that an LGBTQ person is not a person, that is a homophobic constitution. And that's a homophobic country. But most countries in the world are closeted. Actually, now it's no longer most. It is now 70 countries, about approximately 70 countries are homophobic or closeted. closeted countries. Yet, I think today we'll do the video for the countries that are out, and we're going to do roll call. We'll do roll call. Out. India out. America out. And we're going to read like a headmaster. Those who are present and those who are absent. So there are some kind, we're going to read those countries most probably today. But uh, back to Brazil. Now, I looked at Brazil's demographics, and 50% are men, 50% are women. It's very important to understand that because um, it means um, they I begin to understand gender equality. And then I looked at the women population, and there was a very good article about the feminists. The feminists could not support Bolsonaro, but there were some feminists who came and supported Bolsonaro. And I understood something, and this is now the second part of the video we're going to. There is something that has happened in both the LGBTQ movement and the feminist movement, all minority movements and organizations, entities. It is the mainstreaming and the politicization of those minority movements. What do I mean by this? That in the past, most minority movements belonged to the left. The left. The political were left. So socialist, communist, but not necessarily communist. Communists are very ultra. They're actually similar to the right wing. It's only that when it comes to economics, it is thoroughly controlled by the government, completely. So the most minority groups belonged to the left wing. Now, then as time went on, something happened. Like, let's go to the feminist movement in Brazil. Some women decided that no, we can work for ourselves. We don't need government to support us. All we need is given capital, ventures, capital is given to us, and we can start our own businesses, and we don't need government to take care of us, because the leftist way of dealing with minorities is to give them social welfare due to the effect of the patriarchal system that tends to be capitalist and tends to be right wing. So the left wing now, which tends to be matriarchal, supports and takes care of the minorities because they understand. And that's why I'm a leftist. I'm more leftist than right, because you understand what a minority goes through, because they don't access to power is limited. So just imagine if you are not next to power. I mean, it's a dream. It's a miracle to be powerful and you're not next to power. It's ridiculous. Scientifically, it can't happen. How can you be it during the day, and it's night time? How can you call 3 a.m. in the morning, afternoon? You see, so how can you call somebody who is not next to power powerful? I mean, he may be powerful in something else, but not in the economic sense. If he's far from economic power, he'll be you'll be economically powerless. So the left wing, what they did, they took care of these minorities, provided for them, like women. It's most left wing governments that encouraged women rights and all of these things. So most feminists were left wingers. Even when the feminist movement started, they were attacking the capitalist system of patriarchy, whereby men are given privilege and there is no concern. The problem I have with right-wing governments, it's so static. They don't, no sense of compassion. They just look at somebody and they judge them like they've judged everybody. and not knowing that there's some people who are disabled, some people who are like the mental illness uh, tragedy, global mental illness tragedy that's happening in the world right now is going to make governments become left wing. Because if you find somebody is mentally unwell, how are you going to keep them? You see, that's what happened. That's why we are scared of what's happening in Brazil and everywhere, where they're becoming right wing, ultra right. Because Nazi Germany was right wing, even if they were called socialists. See, people didn't understand why Nazi Germany, because Nazi means socialism. Why did they do what they did? They did it because they didn't want to take care of people. And not only that, there was something. Nazi Germany was, it was up to something. It was up to something. And because even though there was Socialist Workers Party, you see, what does that mean? That's just a mix of socialism and capitalism. And we'll talk about these things very clearly because people confuse socialism. The socialism of the 30s is not the socialism of today. The socialism of today is government welfare and basic income. Yeah, that is socialism, and I support basic income 100%. It's the way to go. Even what Bolsonaro is calling for, I don't support it because, as I said in my other video of climate change, industrialization is a problem now. What he wants to do, called industrialization. Brazil has the largest rainforest in the world. Actually, that rainforest is the one that serves Europe. Because when you see Brazil, it hits Europe. And it could be the reason rain goes to Europe. One of the reasons. And it's the reason why Brazil is very rainy. Very fertile country. Bananas, every tropical fruits, oh my. Don't make me get hungry now. They're in Brazil, you know. And industrialization means you have to destroy those forests. Not all of them, but some of them. And that's what's happening. So it's Bolsonaro is caught between a rock and a hard place. What is he supposed to do? People don't have money. And if you want to create jobs, you'll destroy the forests. And when you destroy the forest, you have destroyed life on the planet. Basic income. Yes, become socialist. Give people money to survive. And that's what's going to happen. Europe is going to become socialist. Even I'm not scared of the right wing system. Why? AI. AI is taking over in a big way. People are losing jobs. The government is going to put people on benefits called basic income, universal basic income. And it's universal meaning even if you're working, you will still get an income. You will get to cover up for the costs of not having a job. And secondly, when you give people money, you can tax everyone. You see, if you are in an economy where people have no money, guess what? You will not get taxes. You can't get taxes from people who have no money. No money. They can't even buy. You know, when you buy food, even if you are jobless and you buy food, you've still paid a tax because there's a value added tax on that food you've bought. Especially processed food, all of these things, there's a value added tax on it. But imagine you have no money. Guess what? You will not buy anything. Yes, you won't buy. So if the government is caring, if the government wants to make money, taxes, give them money. You give your people money, they will go to the shops, they will buy whatever they want. The government will get tax from what they have bought. And you see, everybody will have money. So that's, imagine if you give everybody 1,000 US dollars per month, everybody in your country, 1,000 US dollars. Do you know how much money the government is going to make? It will be very rich because from every 1,000 US dollars, you get $200 as a government. $200. For every $1,000, you get $200 from the people, all, whether they have jobs or not. Now you tell me if you'll be a broke government. You won't be. Because one person is getting $200 from 50 million people. From 50 million people. Do you know how much that is? 50 million people, and you get $200 from them. That is 10 billion. 10 billion dollars. $10 billion of taxation. Just calculate it, and that's minus government services, minus government industries where they're making money. And remember, the government is also making money. If you are a government and you have companies, you also make money from the profits selling to those people. Now you have more customers because you've given them money. But now imagine the system where we have, you don't give people money. Huh? You just leave them. They have no jobs. They can't even buy things. You're gone. And then you expect to make tax, have revenue. There is no revenue in that. So give people money. It will reduce. Of course, industrialization won't be fast, but people are getting money from the bank. The central bank, is the only bank in the world that is allowed to print money. That's all they do. In fact, the central bank should have a meeting, and decide what is going to happen when we implement basic income. How are we going to discuss the flow of money and what will happen? They should do that. And guess what? Thank you, AI. You can do all the mathematics for us and tell us what's going to happen. So AI will just sit down and make the outcomes that if all governments print this money for people in 1 month, basic income, this is how it will circulate. You'll even know the money supply. Oh my God, AI is winning. Is winning because you will know the money supply, you will know all the outcomes. You can even know how much money your company will make. Yes, meetings are dead. Right now, if you are a corporation, your meetings are disappearing because you now know, you can predict just by a click of the computer. Like betting. If you've seen betting games, all you do is multiply the outcomes and you will know which one is the best. So anyway, let's finish about, I was still on feminism and what has happened to feminism. Now it has left wing. So what has happened is now you have right wing feminists and left wing feminists, right wing LGBTQ persons and left wing LGBTQ persons. Now, what has that done to the LGBTQ movement and the feminist movement and even the black movement? Oh my goodness. See what's happening in America. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The black people, it's like there are even black Republicans, young men who value Trump. It's unbelievable. And then you have blacks who are still on the Democrats. So the minorities have been divided. It's intriguing game of politics. Has never happened. Look at the LGBTQ movement. And what happened about that? Caitlyn Jenner was one of the leaders of the right-wing LGBTQ persons, together with Milo Yiannopoulos. They were the LGBTQ persons who stayed with Trump or told people they love Trump. And I remember that time in 2016, people were like, how can you stay with Trump? He's a right wing. You see, he's a right wing man, and naturally, we see right wingers to be what do you call it, homophobic and transphobic and all of that. But Caitlyn Jenner said, no, I'm supporting him because I'm a Republican. Milo said he was on the side of Trump, even called him daddy, because he was anti-feminist. He didn't like feminist ideology, which happened to be a left wing. The feminism in America tends to be very left wing. So he was against feminism. So he supported Trump. And so, people need to understand political support of people is not that you support everything they do. Is that if he supports something that is dear to you, you will stay with him. So you see, like a very rich person who has gained money under Trump, even if he's a feminist, she's a feminist, or LGBT or black, like what's happened to Kanye West. Kanye West is with Trump because Trump just saved him. You know, no tax. I mean, tax reduction for the rich. And you want Kanye to complain? He can't. He's a rich man, and Trump has just saved him by reducing taxes for the rich. So he cannot he cannot run and say that, oh, now Trump, you're a bad man, you should leave the. In fact, even Kanye is thinking of being president because of what has happened. The tax is low, so his wealth is being preserved. So what I'm saying is that people support people for their interests, and this is what has happened in democracy and in the world. Now, not only do companies and rich men have interests, now everybody's having interests. So you are now supporting somebody for your interests, what you can get from them. Yeah, if I can get this from this person, I'm with him. So back to the feminists and what happened to Milo. So Milo and Caitlyn, they led some LGBTQ persons to be with Trump because of one thing. They valued right wing ideology of freedom, and also they didn't want the immigration policy that Trump had come with. He didn't want Muslims to come because what happened in America, and the fact that there's also Islamophobia in the right. See? In the right. So now what happened is, if you are an Islamophobe, you will like Trump. Did you know there were Muslims who loved Trump? American Muslims, they love Trump. And that's why I'm saying these days I'm now scientific. I'm not general. I'm very detailed. I will even count one person who likes Trump and is Muslim. I will count them. And I found them. Why? Some of them didn't like Obama's policies. It's the end of sheep mentality. It's disappearing, and now people are running helter skelter. They are going any camp they want to join. They are joining. They're joining anything they hear. If he's saying that he's going to give me money and I want money, I'm with him, even if he hates me. Like a Muslim, you see, the American Muslims who supported Trump, and yet Trump said no Muslims now. There's even one I remember. He said that, yes, don't even bring them. They are coming here and spoiling life. Why? He's lucky. He's already American. He's already American. So you can't touch him. So those ones who have not made it, he has deserted them. Doesn't know them. His brothers doesn't know them. Why? He has got what he wanted. So that's politics. So now back to the feminists. The feminists now were divided. All minority groups basically were divided politically. They became politicized because now feminism no longer became a right-wing thing. It was now, left-wing product. It was now becoming right-wing. So people are becoming right-wing. Now, why were they becoming right-wing? It's because these species of feminists and LGBTQ persons and black people tend to be economic minded, or they like money, or they like freedom. That is why they were right wing, and like or religious, I would say it. So they liked those things. So what did they do? They started espousing right wing ideas. Now, when they were espousing right wing ideas, the LGBTQ wing, feminist wing, and black wing, and all the minority wings that were left wing naturally, or because of the fact that the left was, they were looking back and saying, excuse me, who are you? Why have you done this? I mean, like the feminist who I've told you, the Brazilian feminist who said, you know what, we just want change. This guy, I mean, we don't need the government to help us. We just want to, we can help ourselves. You see, that's a right wing feminist talking. So, and so it's sad that the feminist movement is now divided, the LGBTQ movement now divided, the black movement now divided because of politics. Everybody is now becoming politically individuated. So, and now what has happened is now the feminists, as I've told you, of course, still feminist majority are leftist, because leftist ideology is the best. Marxism is the best ideology for feminism, is the best ideology for LGBTQ life, is the best ideology for the black nation, because uh, Marxism talks of liberation. If you read Karl Marx, he was basically a liberator. I call him Papa Liberation, because he liberated all people who were being oppressed by the system. How did he help them? He made us understand the system, that the system is one of oppression. And that's what women and gays and black people understand. They understand that, you know, when you talk to black people, gays, and women about oppression, they know it. They know it full well. And that's what Karl Marx did. If you Why I like Karl Marx, he summarized history and he said history is a class struggle. It's always oppressor versus oppressed. And then sometimes people, because the war takes so long, you know, guys get tired. Look at what happened in Israel. The story of Israel in the desert is the best story. The Exodus. 40 years, and the distance between Egypt and Israel is 10 days. Seriously? I mean, why did they stay in the desert for 40 years? You see, because some people who are not patient, they just said, no, this is too much. We go back to Egypt. And I believe some people went back to Egypt. Yes, I do. They went back to Egypt. They could not stay with Moses, who was just taking them round and round in terms of testing them for 40 years. And Moses, who even didn't see Israel. So what does this mean? Life is sometimes, people, we all have an idea about life. And some people don't even have an idea of life. As I told you, there are some people who like being led. You know, when you ask them, what's the plan of your life? I remember asking somebody, and they told me, I don't have. I'm just living. And I was like, what? You don't even have a clue where you want to be? You don't even have a desire? That's wrong. You should be led. You see? I mean, you should have a plan. You should be a leader. And that's what the feminist movement is all about. It's about women leading, learning how to have plans for themselves. Yes, a woman should also have a plan. When you have a plan, you're a leader. Yes, you are a leader. And now with AI is waiting for nobody. Do you know how many plans you can create with an AI computer? Millions of plans. In fact, now the problem is, which one do you pick? I tell you which one you pick. You pick the one that has the best outcomes. But guess what? What is best to you is not best to others. Yes, because you are the one who knows what you want. Do it. Do what you want. Do what you want. That is the I always tell people. That my philosophy of life is live life and let life live. Whatever happens on the way, that's all. So the Brazilian feminists are now were divided, and 50% of the women said they will not vote for Bolsonaro. Now that was a scary statistic because it means 50% of the other women were going to vote for him, and that's what has happened. So we're still yet to go and see the stats, but what I'm trying to tell you is feminists are divided. Now you have right-wing feminists. In fact, now the books of jurisprudence and philosophy are going to be changed. Yes, we're going to write new books and study these weird right-winged minority groups. These are minority groups that are like being, and not only right-wing, then you're also having centrists. Like now me, I've become very centrist in the sense that there are some things the right-wing people do, like when it comes to economics, I believe in freedom. I believe it's not only the government that has a plan. Even an individual can have a plan. He can have an idea. So what the person should do is work with the government. Of course, it has already happened through the PPP, the public-private partnership, whereby the government has land, but I have money. And I sit down with the government and tell them, if I put this thing here, I think this will work. And then the government says, yeah. What do? They do environmental assessment. All of these things are already here today. So I think I woken up knowing that I'm centrist and I didn't know. But what is happening in Brazil? Bolsonaro has to apply that same PPP in Brazil, whereby the because it's dangerous if you have a private partnership. That's what could be happening in Brazil. That Bolsonaro is a businessman, like what's in America. America is basically private, because Trump is a businessman, and if he was a sharp businessman, in fact, there was something that when Trump first became president, there was the argument that we need to know all his corporations, all his companies, because there may be a temptation that these companies will work with the federal government. And what will that mean? That will mean Trump is going to get rich off the government. So I don't know how they dealt with it. I'll go and revise that story. But it happens in Africa. If you are a businessman and you do well and you win politics, you can make deals with yourself. Yes, make deals with yourself. And because you have a company that can build roads, you have a constructing company that can build houses. I mean, you see, and you build the best houses. I mean, who is going to stop your company from winning the contract? They will win it, and they'll build, and you'll get your profit, and you'll become richer, and you'll be in charge. So we're having very many kings in Africa. So that's what happens. You just there's a public-private partnership, of which I've told you, you can be public, like a president. You can be public, you're in a government, but the private is your company. Yeah. I'm just giving you the views. So basically, this is what has happened to the minority groups. They have now been divided. And I'm going to I think even I want to write a book about that. But what I can say, the right-wing feminism is new. It's not so strong, but it's picking up because people like hope, kind of. But I'm going to study it very seriously. I need to look at it very seriously. Then the LGBT community also movement is also having right wing tendencies. So there are right wingers who are LGBTQ. So I'm also going to study that and look at it and say why is it? How does an LGBT right winger behave? And not only right wingers, even centrists will find out. Then even in the black movement, as I told you, Kanye West being the leader of the right wing ideology, blacks who carry that right wing, yeah, the belief that, you know, like now what's happening in America, they like Trump. The blacks who like Trump, they want him to give them jobs. You know, they just want to live life, get money, and do all they want. But the other blacks who tend to be historical, you know, they're living on the history that, you know, the system is the problem. So the system, and what is the system? The system was of oppression. But I tend, you know, I always, being a philosopher is very nice because tomorrow you'll say this, tomorrow you'll say another thing. And the issue of the system being a problem, what you do is amend the system. Like that's what we talked about in the last video. Constitution, you know, amend the constitution. You amend it to fit to fix the problem. Now, what is amendment? Amendment means there's amendment that means okay, a constitution is not a car. You know, when you've made the Mercedes-Benz car, it's done. You can't add another part to the car. So amendment is not addition. It is making a new car. You see, like the Mercedes-Benz, the reason why it has different classes is because it's called, those classes are amendments. Mercedes-Benz started as one car. The first Mercedes-Benz was only one, and it had one system. Now, the next time, the engineers and the designers said, we need something else. This car, it can do something powerful. So they amended. So the next design was different from the first one. So that's an amendment. So that's what we do to systems. When systems don't work for us that well, we amend them. And sometimes there's some constitutions that are so bad. They're so bad you just dismantle them. Yes, but generally, all constitutions can be amended. You don't have to destroy them. Like I used to believe America needs to just have a new constitution because the foundation, in my view at that time, was that it was written by white people who were they did consider black people. But I've changed that view because I've thought about it again and I've said it's not, you see, the foundation, the constitution, all you can do is just amend it, and it has been amended. And as I've told you, in this same amended constitution of America, Kanye West, Michael Jordan, Oprah Winfrey, all of these people have become wealthy in this amended constitution. So what does that mean? That there's really no need to destroy the constitution to make people what do you call it, to make the people to change the country for the better. All you have to do is amend constitution. Like now the gun problem in America, all you have to do is have reforms, how to fix them. And Obama already did that. He brought the idea of doing a mental health assessment of anyone who buys a gun. Now the problem is that that law can't work well when it can't work well. It can work well only now in purchase of the guns, but not for those who have already purchased guns. Because people, thousands of people purchased guns before their heads were checked. See, that's the problem in America, that thousands of people have guns before their heads were checked. So what does that mean? that even if you bring that policy in, it will not stop gun attacks, because the people who are sick and have guns have them. So when the sickness just hits them, the guy just goes on a rampage and shoots people, like what happened sadly in the Jewish synagogue. Yeah, it happened like that. That was just a mad person. Yes, it's mental health. It's mental health. Now, anyway, back to, yeah. So on the gun story, like gun reform, you don't have to destroy the constitution, because the constitution allowed guns. See, that's what happened. And the guns were allowed at a time when there was no psychology, no psychiatry. People didn't know that humans have problems, schizophrenia. Like what I said in another video, schizophrenia has existed for thousands of years. And we're even going to do one about the Bible characters. In the Bible, King Saul, he was mentally unwell, unstable. He used to have episodes. And David used to soothe him with music so that his head can stabilize. But then look at very funny story. One day when David went to soothe him, Saul actually lied that he was sick, and he had the spear, and when David was playing, he threw the spear. He wanted to kill David. We'll read those stories when we are going to study the mental health of King Saul, that he had problems, much as he was king. So, but that time, the Bible did not write the word schizophrenia. They didn't know. What they called them, mental illness in the days of the ancient world was called bad spirits. That's what it was called. They were bad spirits. They didn't have schizophrenia. Now scientists now call it schizophrenia, because they have done the study and they have said, why? The brain is connected to the mind or the spirit. I am of that school of thought. So so we're going to do that about King Saul. But what I'm trying to say is that when the American Constitution was written, guys were given guns. Everyone had guns. Men had guns. They had to have guns, because they were fighting not only the British, sadly, they were fighting the Red Indians in their own land, and they only knew how to beat them with guns. So what happened is, when they got the guns, they didn't check. You see, they didn't do checks on these people. And it has been for hundreds of years, guns have been passed down to generation. And remember, that time blacks were slaves. So blacks didn't have guns. Blacks have started having guns now. If you go to most white families in America, they have a history of having guns in their family. So you see, there's a lot of things to discuss about when you talk about gun, to deal with the gun issue in America, seriously. So what I'm trying to say is, when you go for the guns, please, you'll have to check all people who have guns. They go through a mental health assessment. Yes, everybody who has a gun. You send the government psychologists and psychiatrists. They do mental health assessment of the gun owner. Then they bring back the report. And this person should know that the psychiatrist or the psychologist is really is doing a good job. Not these ones. Of course, government things are trustworthy. And then the government will now decide and say, okay, this person, we've now known you have a gun and you have this issue. So it's either you take medication. That's what they should do. That's how they should do it. Like what happened in South Sudan. South Sudan is the same issue. They took guns from people. They tried to take guns, they can't. And you see, they did no assessment. They gave everybody had to fight for their life against the North. So they gave every man who had a gun and just shoot the enemy. Not knowing that people will have mental health problems after the wars. And that's what has happened in South Sudan. So South Sudan, so basically we can reform things without destroying systems. That's what I'm trying to say. So rather than being a deconstructionist, you can be a reformer constructionist, or a reformist rather than a deconstructionist. You don't destroy, you just reform. And you reform by amendments, constitutional amendments, and legal amendments. So let's conclude about Bolsonaro. Now, what does this mean? It means a lot. Bolsonaro's presidency. We want to see how it's going to go. Of course, it is not easy. As I've told you, the biggest war he's going to have is with climate change, and he's going to have problems with the LGBTQ movement because he cannot take them back, and it would not be wise to take them back to the closet like what they have tried to do. Brazil has really tried to tell, please don't send them. Homosexuality, when the science was done, it was done, and it was done properly. And that's why I'm so happy with history. You know, Alan Turing is enough to tell people homosexuals exist. So don't try conversion, state conversion therapy. That's what Brazil is tempted to do. There's conversion therapy, personal, you know, the private one where people just, they feel I'm gay and I think I need to change, so they do that. There's the social conversion therapy, personal conversion therapy, and there's the worst one, state conversion therapy, like what happens in Uganda. The homophobia is state sponsored homophobia. You know, there's family homophobia, personal homophobia, societal homophobia, but when it hits state sponsored, that one, it means all the state machinery is against you, and you are, if you are an LGBTQ person, you are living in a red alert or danger. So other countries don't have that. They may have societal homophobia, but they don't have state sponsored homophobia. And then others just have personal homophobia. So all of that. So basically what we are trying to say, Brazil should not fall that trap of state sponsored conversion therapy, that we need to change the homosexuals in our country. No, there's no change about that. Sexuality is a personal lifestyle, and a lifestyle is biological. It's biological. So let people live. Do not interfere with people's sexual lives, especially consensual. Don't bother. If they want to stay with a man and they're a man, allow them. If they want to stay with a woman and they're a woman, please allow them. If they want to stay single, let them stay single. Yes, it's just simple. It's not putting everyone in a box, because putting everyone in a box is Nazi. Yeah, Nazism. They put everybody in one box. All of you must behave like this. That one is wrong, because nature is against that. We are biodiverse. Nature is diverse. I mean, even black people are not all are the same melanin content. Some people have more melanin than others, but that doesn't mean they are not black. They are still black. It's just that where they live has an effect on their melanin content and genetics also. Okay, guys, so that's what I had to share today. I will see you in the next video when we're doing roll call for the countries that are out. But basically, Bolsonaro, all I can tell the LGBT community in Brazil, just stand up for your rights. That's who you are. Nobody should crush you for your personality and for your sexuality. And it is, you have science on your side, and there is no power in the world that can fight your sexuality. Absolutely none. Yes, absolutely none. In the sense that your sexuality is your sexuality. And if you are attracted to the same sex or you are transgender, that is your life. And there's no government that should attack you for that. This is why UN has to have a policy to protect LGBT persons worldwide, to make sure that somebody who is LGBTQ is protected from persecution and discrimination. I mean, this is what has happened. That's what, if you don't protect LGBTQ persons, you will, it means you can't protect other people. Yeah, that's what happened in Nazi Germany. They went for LGBTQ persons, especially gay men and Jews. See, that's a sad thing. And you have to how do you stop those things from happening? You can now talk to governments. You know, in the past, no one who could talk to Hitler. Nobody. Nobody could talk to Hitler. Nobody talked to Hitler. But today, you can talk to Bolsonaro. You can talk to Trump. Even I tell LGBTQ groups in America, they need to talk to Trump. Go and talk to him and tell him, you know, understand this is the issue and this is how life is. Yeah, you've not recognized our rights. Yes, that's what I told Trump on Twitter. Please listen to scientists. Invite them. Why you should even have a scientist day. You know, honor the scientists in America and bring them and let them give you speeches. I'm telling you, if I was in the White House, my goodness, that would be my joy. Every month you have a scientist meeting, dinner, and they tell you what they're thinking about the world. All of them. Sexual scientists, climate change scientists, technology guru, of course he made the technocrats, the technological scientists like Bill Gates and all these others, Tim Cook and Mark Zuckerberg. But he needs to meet all of the scientists. That's how you run a country. It's like your children, you know. All your children matter, whether they are gay, black, white, poor, naughty, good. All of them are your children. Yes, that's why I believe that God should love and loves everybody, because they are all his. All right, guys, that's it. I know many people are going to do more videos about this. This is just what you call ad libitum, at liberty, and we will still discuss what's happening in Brazil. But just know the world is now more right wing than left wing.